Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here tonight on the Cosmic Connections. It's the evening of September 26th with our program here. We want to welcome everybody again for joining us this week. It's always a pleasure to be coming and sharing with you. And Blanca, how are you doing this fine evening there in Atlanta, Georgia?
I'm doing very well, Dave. Thank you. And it's nice to have you on the show. I think last time you decided, for your various reasons, technical reasons, not to have the show. And our good people, some people on Blog Talk did join us, I think, because the show came up. So apologies to them for that. But thank you for joining us tonight on Blog Talk. We appreciate it.
Oh, but, I forgot
to make a last-minute decision.
Well, I was out of town, and the hotel I was at, the internet was just absolutely horrible. It was inconsistent, in and out, and I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to have a decent program. And so I sent out a newsletter about a couple hours before the program that, the program was canceled, but I forgot to go in and cancel the Blog Talk. So it went on as though I was there, and I wasn't. So, but it was good.
I know. Yeah. Fortunately, I got the email and all that. Somehow Alan and I were going our separate ways, and he got onto Blog Talk, and then he texted me saying, "Are y'all going to do a show?" And not because the music's still playing. So anyway, apologies to our friends who were on Blog Talk, but we're here today, and so that's nice.
We are here today, and last weekend I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with a workshop. It was so nice to be back after 7 months, because the workshops are always so nice because that's where people get to come together. We share with each other, we interact with each other, and at a time that we're going through the COVID thing and they're keeping us in isolation, I was reading some stuff about how important it is to keep socializing during this time, because what happens is, literally, if you're accustomed to going to work or being in places or whatever that you're associating with other people, and then all of a sudden all that gets cut off, it says there's a part of your brain that literally begins to shut down. And so, because then you go and then you're not processing or perceiving things quite as well, because we've been so accustomed and we programmed ourselves to be around other people, to be socializing. And so would love to have you come. So a week from Saturday, we're going to be in Chicago. Now, I do have a lot of new material, and about 90% of the people that were at Dallas were repeats, which means they had come back. And so I asked them, okay, so what's the difference between the previous programs and this one? And all of them said they really enjoyed the new program and the new material that I brought in. And this one lady, she came right out and she said, I've been to 4 of them, and the new one, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10. I highly recommend everybody go. So, yes, Chicago on September 26th, and it's 95% certain I'm going to have Atlanta on October 10th. And then tentatively after that, oh, you know what? It's my Alexa going on behind me that she was hearing me talk. That's the blue light that you see back there. I was wondering, where was that noise coming from? But okay.
You got to teach Alexa about the radio show.
I know. I should have. I told her to turn off the music, but she still keeps going, so she responds a little bit to what I say. She thinks I'm talking to her. So back to it again. September 26th, we're in Chicago. October 10th, almost 95% certain we're going to be in Atlanta. And then on October 24th, as of now, I've got Phoenix, and the rest of these are tentative. Phoenix on October 24th, Kansas City on November 7th, and then, if they will allow us to make the flights, November 21st, we're going to be in Amsterdam. Now, I had to cancel Southern California because they won't let us meet. they won't let you meet with more than 10 people. So, December 5th, instead of Southern California, Vegas, baby. Las Vegas. I've never done a workshop in Las Vegas, and it'll either be the 21st of November or the 5th of December, but that's enough time out so that people can plan on it. And that's a trip, that people like to take because, usually the flights are fairly inexpensive. Hotel rooms are absolutely great when you go to Vegas, baby. And so I'm going to have Las Vegas replacing Southern California on the list that I sent out. So that's the tentative schedule coming up, and obviously we always love to have you. So Blanca, what else would you like to share with us tonight?
Well, it's nice that you're back on the road, and yes, socializing is important. And then in your workshops, it's a lot of people who've seen each other because they've attended before, and like-minded people, and so that's nice. And hey, folks in North Carolina, you come to Atlanta, you can take those masks off and you can breathe some fresh air. You don't have to wear them everywhere you go. So North Carolinians, come for a little freedom. Come for some fresh air. And anybody else from any state that's got you all masked up. And come experience it. It's legitimate in Atlanta to breathe.
Well, when we were in Dallas, technically they were supposed to wear their mask when they came into the hotel, but the hotel wasn't enforcing it. And then by the time we got into the room with our workshop and closed the door, everybody was able to take their mask off. So they didn't have to mask up. I mean, everybody was just kind of freely associating with each other, very comfortable. I told folks, if you want to wear a mask, that's your choice. If you don't want to, that's your choice. But nobody wore it. So we had a nice, wonderful day in Dallas, and we were mask-free all day long. So, yeah.
Right. Well, people want to have that. It's interesting. We had some friends visit from California, and they're totally traumatized.
I know.
They're saying, it's like another world here. It's like another world in Georgia. Y'all have a very different attitude about this thing.
That's right.
And it's interesting. They softened up a little bit, but not quite. They still were pretty nervous about going out, and even though they saw people going out, I said, we've been open since May.
Yeah. It's we're fairly good here in Florida. It's basically if you go into restaurants, you in stores, you got to have it on, and but other than that, I mean, I go out and I go around and I'm walking or something like that. There isn't hardly anybody wearing it when they're out and about, unless they absolutely have to. So yeah, but that's enough for that stuff. So, but go ahead.
That's true. No, I was just going to say, most of the people who listen to your show, they're researchers. They're not going to take what's force fed into them. They're free thinkers, so I think most of the people who listen to you know what the score is.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, Blanca, with that, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we get into the program tonight?
No, I think we're good to go. It'd be nice. It sounded like you had a little bit of an update for us.
I do, okay. Now, what's happening again on the currency exchange? I haven't talked directly with our brokers except for about 2.5 weeks ago. And again, they're saying they're just waiting. They're just absolutely waiting on the decision makers to make the decision. But nobody is saying this exactly, but there is a possibility. There is still, it may stretch out for a little bit. Now, a couple weeks ago, I shared this channeled message from the Palladians. And they were basically saying that going into spring is that we're going to start having what is a complete financial collapse. Folks, we have not, I mean, it's kind of common sense that we haven't seen the full outcome yet of literally millions and millions of people not working. And businesses being shut down left and right, which means there are people that can't pay their mortgage payments, and there are commercial businesses that can't pay their mortgage payments, and that hasn't rolled over to where it's hitting the banks yet. We haven't seen the record number of foreclosures and bankruptcies that are going to be happening, and what they're projecting is that's going to start really hitting in the spring. And so obviously myself and others feel that that would be a very probable opportune time for the funds to be released because of the fact that it would be offsetting this absolute financial catastrophe that we're going to go in. Secondly, we have been hearing from different sources for a good 3 to 5 years that the current existing cabal-run financial system has to basically go away. It has to collapse. And it could be that this COVID-19 scenario is going to be the scenario that's going to instigate that collapse, and then the new money coming in is what allows the new one to replace it. So I don't know that for certain, but I'm saying, folks, there is a probability that we may not be seeing anything until the spring. So, but we just don't know. We absolutely don't know. I know sometimes it seems to get delayed, but I'm just saying that so it kind of makes sense that if that's the scenario, how it's going to play out and what could be on that. So that is the scenario that we have there on the currency exchange. I'm still in a position that I'm not making any comments at all on Meta One because we still have the legal stuff going on, but that's looking very good for me, that I'm going to probably be able to settle with the SEC. And my issue is different than what goes on with the Meta One folks, but I can just get on and move on beyond that. So that there's very high probability that we're working on the settlement on that. I am with them. So yeah. So that's basically the brief updates that I have. Blanca, anything you want to share about that?
Well, it does make sense that the current system, the cabal system, the debt enslavement system, if indeed we're going to a new reality, right, with more freedom and abundance, that thing can't come along with us. So it's going to have to be replaced somehow. And so it kind of makes sense that there will be some sort of collapse or some sort of crisis where something new has to be brought in order to keep, commerce and business going.
Yeah. It was interesting because there's been a lot of talk about possibly, a new gold-backed currency system coming into place. And I've been taking kind of a contrary position to most people, is because if we're going to have our currency backed by gold and there's a limited amount of gold, then that means there's a limited amount of currency that can be in circulation. And it was about 3 weeks ago I was reading an article that was the very reason why, I should say one of the primary reasons why, President Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. We were on the gold standard, but what it meant that there was a limited amount of money to be in circulation, which means there was a limited amount of money for the banks to loan. And then when we came off the gold standard, all of a sudden loans just exploded. The ability to go in debt exploded. And what really exploded was the issue of credit cards. Credit cards were very limited prior to 1971. But after we came off the gold standard, it was because we were now in a situation where they had an unlimited amount of fiat currency that could be put out there, which means banks could give unlimited amount of loans as long as they were meeting what was called the normal standards for what they were doing. And so the fiat currency allowed us to move into this massive debt scenario. And in the longer term, it's basically been the slavery of what I call the cabal-run financial system that's turned us into debt slaves. And yes, there's a high probability we are going to be set free from that. But if we're going to move into a gold-backed currency scenario, it means the massive amounts of gold that are the off-market gold that are held by the dragon families and others, that has to come onto the market. And they might do that because this is the new system. They may do that to be able to back up, more currency that will be available, that will be out there. But if we are in the existing scenario and we're going to go to a gold-backed currency, it means there's a limited amount of money to be in circulation. And the cabal would absolutely love that because they have the gold, they have all the money, and then we get nothing because there's no money for us. See, so we're still in a slavery situation. We've moved from debt slaves to poverty slaves because you can't get any money. That's just a scenario. It's a possibility that's out there. So just keep that in mind, that because there's lots of talk about the whole Nasera scenario and going into a gold-backed currency situation. So you want to share anything on that, Blanca?
No, it's pretty similar. But to me, what makes sense is if indeed we're going to escape being debt slaves, the system definitely has to change.
Yes.
That's all there is to it.
Yes.
And if whatever they say is gold back or resources back, if it's still within the same system, we still have the same problem.
There is a possibility they could go into just asset backed, which could expand beyond gold. And the
Right.
biggest asset is real estate. Real estate is the largest asset in the world. And so if they go to asset backed versus just gold backed, then that's a different scenario. If they allow real estate or other assets to come in, what are called tangible, valuable assets. And again, I said real estate is the biggest asset that's out there. So there's a possibility they could go that route. So we don't know, and I don't know.
Yep.
I'm just sharing some of my thoughts of what I'm familiar with. So, okay.
Exactly. Yes.
So are we ready to go into the program?
I think so.
Okay. Well, folks, I've been sharing with you about how important it is to understand who we are and moving into what is our responsibility. We're moving into a world of great crisis. There's a lot of crisis that's going on. And on one hand, the crisis creates what is called a lot of fear in a lot of people. And it's extremely important for us, though, to be able to rise above that. Now, I've been sharing with you these books that are from Tina Louise Spalding, and she's channeling Jesus and the other groups that are called the Ananda. Well, she has started a new channeling series where basically she's saying she's channeling Jesus for 40 days and 40 nights. He's coming through once in the morning and once in the evening for about 10 to 12 minutes. Well, there was a recording that came on day 4 in the morning that I absolutely loved, and it was such a strong message. So I'm going to play that for you now. So let's go in and listen to the message that she brings in, and it's about 12 to 13 minutes long. So
Tina Spalding Trance Channel here today with a microphone. So those of you who are complaining about sound, hopefully this is better for you. I just want to say, as I'm going into this 4th day here, what an act of faith it is to trust that Jesus has interesting things to say for 40 days. I can feel myself going, have you got something interesting to say today? So, yeah, I'm going through my own challenges doing this, so you're not alone. Let's see what he has to say today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I have a lot to say. Do not worry, dear one. There is always more and more and more. Your journey here is an interesting one, as we say each day. We want you to understand that your job is not to solve the problems of the world. This is something that many of you are feeling as a burden upon your shoulders now. What can I do to save the planet? Well, what we want you to understand, and this is going to be very challenging for some of you, is that the world arises from within you. So if you start trying to change the outside world without changing the inside world, you are wasting your time. As our dear one says, it's like moving the chairs around on the Titanic. You need to change the direction of the ship, not the chairs. So when you are rallying behind causes, and we want you to understand that we are not saying that you should not rally behind things that you believe in, but what we want you to do is not fight against that which you don't want, but fight for that which you do want, because energy given in resistance to what you don't want is energy given to the system that you don't want. You are not investing your tremendous creative powers and co-creative powers, the powers that you exert when you gather together to bring into being something you do want. you are wasting those powers and co-creative powers on the very system that you hate. And so this is a fundamental law of creation that you must understand if you want to change the world. The phrase, be the change that you want to see in the world, begins that process. If you want a kinder, more loving world, be kinder and more loving. But for most of you, that's not enough. You feel that you are kind and loving. But the Course in Miracles practice will take you deep in your mind. It will take you into areas of thought and inner conversation that you have never bothered to go into, or you have never valued because you think it's secret. You think that if you have a thought, I don't love myself, or I don't like myself, or I'm stupid, you say these self-derogatory things all the time in your own minds. You think that they are not powerful. They are as powerful as saying that out loud to somebody else. You would never say that out loud to somebody else. You would never look at someone and say, I think you're stupid and I think you're ugly. But many of you say it to yourselves, believing that on some level it's harmless because it's secreted away inside your mind. But what we want you to know here is that the material, physical world that you see, your society, your culture, your families, your work, every single one of those things began as an idea, a thought in the mind. It became physically manifested because you kept investing in it. And when you keep investing in things like, I am unworthy, you will manifest in front of you beings and systems that treat you as if you are unworthy. So we are talking here about this insidious inner voice that is constantly judging and attacking you, that exists within your mind because of the training that you've had. It can begin with parents who are critical or unloving or judgmental. It then goes into school systems that tell you that you're stupid because you got a D, or that you must conform to be considered good. This is a fundamental teaching of your society. You must conform to be considered good when you are 6 years old and 7 years old and made to line up behind the classmates, and you have to get up and down according to bells, and you're never allowed to say anything in disagreement with the teacher. Years and years and years of this kind of training have led you to become beings who are afraid to speak up. So we want you to understand this. We want you to understand that you must retrain yourselves into believing that you are good regardless of your conformity. And this is what this entire situation in which you find yourselves today is reflecting back to you. It is showing you, and some people are astonished at how compliant people are. We are not astonished at all. We are not astonished at all because we know what goes on in your minds. We know what goes on behind the scenes of your social face. And so we want you to begin to address that today. The inner thoughts that you have. Now, those of you that have been Course in Miracles students for some time have been doing this, but we want you to double down on your practice today. We want you to double down on your practice of these unloving ideas and thoughts that you entertain about yourself or others in your mind. Whenever you're walking along the street and you look at someone and you judge them, they're too fat, they're too thin, they're too beautiful, they're showing off their money, they shouldn't be going out with that person, he's too this, she's too that. Stop yourself and turn it around in your mind immediately and say, we are all valuable in the eyes of God, every single one of us, regardless of how much money we have or how we appear. You must begin to stop these unconscious judgments and bring forth a more loving demeanor within your own heart and mind. This is not about showing off for others how great you are. This is about calling yourself out on your own hatefulness. Some of you who have not done A Course in Miracles will say, I am not hateful. I never do things like that. But we challenge you today to pay attention to your inner dialogue, Pay attention to what you say to yourself in the mirror. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to what you say to yourself when you're getting dressed. Pay attention to what you say to yourself as you head off for work. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. These are not secret thoughts. They are emitting a frequency of unlovingness that will return to you 1,000-fold. Your universe reflects back to you that which you are doing. And this is where this idea of bad things happening to good people and good people being very, very confused. They help charities, they help little old ladies across the road, they're kind and generous to other people, but their internal dialogue is hateful. And they do not understand how creative it is, how pervasive it is, and how powerful it is. So that is your assignment this morning, to listen to your inner dialogue today and stop yourself the second you hear something unloving in your mind. Turn it around and say the opposite as if it's true. It will eventually become true for you, but today it will feel perhaps like a lie. But stop and listen to those inner voices. They are the ones that are miscreating unconsciously out in the world in front of you. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I'll speak to you again later today. I apologize for the little bloop. That was my friend messaging me on Skype. I forgot to turn my Wi-Fi off, so lesson learned, Wi-Fi's off tomorrow. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm going to be vigilant for any unloving thoughts I have today, and I encourage you to do the same. I would like to make one mention here today, as Jesus kept his transmission pretty short. I do have a new book available on Amazon. It is called A Year of Forgiveness, and it is an illustrated compendium of all of the transcriptions of the Jesus commentaries from last year. It is available right now in Kindle format, full color Kindle format, if you want to have it digitally. Come late October, it will be available in a hard copy, and I'm very excited about the hard copy because it's an officially sanctioned companion text to A Course in Miracles, and it has what I've always wanted, which is gold edges on the book. So that's the gift that my publisher gave me. I said to her I wanted gold edges on the book, and she agreed. So I would really love your support for my publisher. She has been an amazing support for me through the years. She took me on as a completely unknown author, and she has brought thousands and thousands of these books into the world for everyone to have. So please consider purchasing that book either in Kindle format, which you can do now, or in hard copy, which will come out at the end of October. I really thank you for your support. I'll see you later today. Bye.
Okay, very, very good practical and pragmatic message. The real important thing to understand is our thoughts create these electromagnetic waves of energy, and they're always reflecting the frequency of which we are in the thoughts. And it's not just your words that carry the energy and the power, but it's your thoughts that carry the energy and the power. And I loved what Jesus had to say there, where he says, you can be an absolutely wonderful, loving, and caring person in your expression in your interaction with the outer world, but inside, in your own quiet, unconscious dialogue, there can be a lot of negative stuff that's going on. And that's what brings in the negative experiences into your life, because we create our experiences based on the energy of our thoughts. And it's so important to understand that. So, Blanca, I'm going to go over to you. Why don't you share with us your thoughts on the message that we had there tonight? And you had not seen this one previously, so this was new to you, but you've always got wonderful things to say.
Well, it was jam-packed with highlights here. I mean, if you just meditate on just the world arises from inside you. Just that. If we
Yes.
really took that and said, what if that were true? Then we would really want to pay attention to what is inside of us in terms of our thoughts. And the suggestion here is to call yourself out on your own hatefulness or your own judgmental thoughts. And the first thing we're going to say, of course, the first thing I said was, I'm not hateful. But I said, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just try it for one whole day? That's all you're going to look at. Is there hatefulness or judgmentalness? Even though you think you're not that way, even though you think you've worked on that, just for kicks, try it. You're bound to learn something. And then once you see it, it says turn it around. Turn it around to the opposite. Something like the thought, we are all valuable in the eyes of Source. So I agree with you. I thought it was impactful and practical, too.
Yeah. So hold on here. I want to make sure that my Facebook page is working well. I hadn't come back up there yet. Let me see if everything looks... Yes, it is. It's doing well. So, okay. Yeah. Well, anything else then you would like to share?
Well, the other thing is, now this is something that you've been talking about as well, in terms of your thought process, to not be fighting against what you don't want, or hating it, or judging it, or resisting it. Rather, use that beautiful creative and co-creative energy and power that you have to fight for what you do want, or to think about what you do want, or for looking for that opportunity to make that happen. That I thought was also powerful.
It's a whole new issue or a world for us to understand that we are never, ever, ever victims. There is no such thing as victims, because we are always the ones who are creating all of our experiences. Now, we don't go out and deliberately create bad experiences, but I think this message came through very clearly saying it's because of the energy that comes from your secret, quiet, inner thoughts. And that is the key. Where are they? Are they positive? Are they high vibration energy thoughts? Or are they negative? Is it, are you attacking someone else? Or are you being very poor and negative toward yourself? Are you seeing yourself as someone that you don't like? That's why Jesus said it's so important to love your neighbor as yourself. It's important to have a very, very healthy self-love, because when we do that, have a very healthy self-love, and the value is just based on who we are, not what we do, what we have, how much money we have, how good we look. None of that is where the value is. The value is on the essence of being, of us being people who are created with God, in the image of God, in a very, very powerful way. When we do that, we begin to then experience that within our lives. I've shared this in the past, and I share this really strongly in the workshop. There are two things, two of the largest, what are called negative thought creating areas that create the most problem in our lives. Number one is fear. Fear is such a powerful negative producing energy issue when we live in fear. It's extremely important that you recognize fear when it comes into your life. You stop it. And then what I do is, if anything of fear comes up before me, I immediately recognize it. And then when I recognize, I stop the fear. And then I go into what's called that quantum breathing process. Now, I've shared that recently. And you can go back to my website and you can read the quantum breathing process. It's that 4-step process where you breathe in through your nose, hold it, breathe out through your mouth, and then hold it. It's like you would breathe in through your nose for a count of 3, hold it for a count of 3, breathe out through your mouth for a count of 3, and then hold it for a count of 3. And when I do that, I always do that at least 3 cycles of that. Why is that important? It totally resets the synapses contacts that are going on in your brain. When you have all these thoughts going through your mind, It's the synapses in your brain. It's the contacts that are there that are propagating these thoughts, that are continuing these thoughts going on. The breathing process totally resets the brain. It's like rebooting your computer. Do that with fear. Anytime you catch fear, stop it. Do that breathing process. It only takes you around 30 to 45 seconds, and then watch how the fear goes away. And it's just gone. It works. That process really works. The second thing that is so powerful negatively is judgment. And Jesus touched on that tonight about how we go into judgment thoughts, because when we go into judgment, we lower our energy, we put ourselves into separation, and we're usually lowering the other person to be less than what we are. Or we're saying that person isn't as good as me. And those are the thoughts going through us. Judgment is a very low vibrational energy producer. Do the same thing when you find yourself in thoughts of judgment. Stop it. Go into the breathing process, and then that helps you reset your mind to start thinking about and producing very positive thoughts. Even if it's just quiet, unconsciously within yourself, because remember, thoughts produce the energy, not the words. The words are only extension of the thought that you got going through your mind. There was a lot of great, wonderful things that were talked about in there. The importance of secret thoughts. The importance of understanding how we are fearful of speaking up. Even if we have to speak up to ourselves and it's just ourselves. And stopping the unconscious judgments. And it's important to understand that like energy of your thoughts attracts like energy into your life. Blanca, what else would you like to share with us tonight?
Well, I think, yes, if people really start to examine fear and what that energy really is, and the quantum breathing exercise is wonderful, because what that starts to do, it starts to release the grasp of the fear on your mind, and you'll start recognizing that it's just an energy. And unfortunately, we've been programmed that when that energy arises within us, we call it fear. And so if you take that exercise that Dave's been suggesting, you'll start to see that fear is just a very strong energy, and then we have habitually responded to it with a whole lot of other things. And so you'll free yourself of that particular thing. And the same thing with judgment. Now, judgment is just an automatic thing. We are set to do that. I don't know why, but we just are. So that's another one to really work with. One of the things Alan and I do is we actually play with it. We're on the road a lot because we're doing surveys. We're surveying different properties, etc. And so we encounter many what we call creative drivers. Okay, so they're not stupid drivers. They're not a-hole drivers. They're creative drivers, and they'll make a move. And, immediately you kind of react and we'll say, well, that was very creative. That was, how did they think to do that? And so then we'll say, well, so far he's in first place. And generally we'll see 3 creative drivers, and at the end of the day we announce who the winner is. And so what that does for us is our initial reaction would be to judge. But that energy, then we immediately say, well, that was very creative. How did he think of doing that? And so we make fun of it and use that energy a little bit different. We become creative with our automatic responses. Now, the world has programmed us to be negative for the most part, so we have to program ourselves to get off that habit. If you look at TV, if you look at news, it's all negative, 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 fear, 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 judge, 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 hate, hate, hate. Well, they're doing that for a reason, because they want you in that state, because you can be controlled in that state.
Barbara Marciniak came out with a new message just about a week and a half ago from the Palladians, and they were talking exactly about what you mentioned. Media, TV, entertainment, you name it, it's filled with negativity, low vibration, judgment, fear-based issues, and it's all designed around power and control from what we call basically, the controlling people. Whether we want to call them the cabal in the physical 3D world, or whether we even want to bring in what are called higher dimensional beings that feed off of our fear. They want us that way. They program us that way. And that is the default system, thought system of our world. But we are the ones who get to rise above it. We are the ones who get to produce the positive energy, the positive world, and get to be the example of how we can live that for other people. So, well, folks, Blanca, I'm ready to go on to the callers if you are.
Yes, I'd love to hear what comments they have, or what experiences they have with this, or questions. Yes, I'd love to hear from our audience as well.
Okay, folks, if you would like to call in, and if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, the number is 515-605-9356. Again, that's 515-605-9356. Press 1 on your touch-tone phone, and then that lets us know that you would like to come in and join us. So we do have one caller that we'll just go right to right away. It's from area code 203. They had pressed 1. So I'm going to go right into the person from area code 203. You're on the air here with Dave. What can we help you with tonight?
Hi, Dave. This is Peter. I'm in Connecticut, yes. It was very interesting, your conversations about, I'm trying to think how you would categorize it, if that's a way of possibly looking at it, is spirituality, or is it some kind of cosmic phenomenon, or some kind of certain type of science? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how anybody would research other sources for, related to what your conversations have been.
I would just encourage you to go listen to the recent channeled messages from Barbara Marciniak, where she's channeling the Palladians. You'll find that's right in line with the things that I am talking about and bringing that is here. We are going through a shift and change in this world, and we are moving from being what has been predominant, physical third-dimensional beings, where we're starting to open up to what is called multidimensionality, which brings spirituality into the issue. And with the latest message that the Palladians had to say is, this is going to continue, but we're moving into an era where there's going to begin to be a split that's going on. The outer world events are going to continue to be in what are called chaotic, a lot of chaos, a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And if we focus our energy and our attention on that, then we will get sucked into that and begin to experience that ourselves. What we're being challenged to do is to rise above it. Now, Peter, I don't know if you've heard these past programs, and I've talked about this, but this is absolutely hard science based on quantum physics. We live in the world where this third-dimensional world is a holographic illusion. It's not real. It's only a construct of our thoughts. And it's because of that whatever we are constricting, whatever we are producing, whatever we are creating, whatever thoughts we are producing is what we experience within our lives. And this physical world is a holographic illusion, but it's designed to be a mirror that reflects back to us what we are thinking, so we can move beyond that and move into what is called higher consciousness, multidimensional beings. And this is the process that we're moving into. Now, this is a shift in humanity that will take years and decades to do, but we're starting it now. And myself and others that are talking about this, we're the ones that are basically the trailblazers on the front end of this process. And I talk a lot about the money issue because money is a part of setting us free. We as a humanity are moving into finding our freedom of our true identity of who we really are. Does that help for you, Peter?
Yeah, quantum energetics. Do you think that might be related to some of what you're talking about? Because this club I'm involved with is what they have on Wednesdays till every other week. And he gets into some of what you're talking about. But I don't know if he's got it figured out correctly, or if he's kind of like a cult-minded thinking person. I don't know, this guy Tom that does the talks. So I'm not sure if he's got it right or not.
Quantum physics is the new physics that came in around 40 or 50 years ago. We were never taught quantum physics when we were in school. But quantum is the lowest level of physics that there is, and when you get into quantum physics, it shows there is no such thing as matter. Even Albert Einstein said that himself. Matter, physical matter, does not exist. We live in a world where everything is energy, and it's vibrational energy. And what we think is an item that is a physical substance item is basically energy that has been, the vibration has been slowed down to the point where it has the feeling or the look or the feel of being physical to our minds. But in reality, it's not physical at all. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand this universe, get to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. Because everything in the universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. And it depends on the frequency and the vibration that we are perceiving that feeds back to us the experience that we have. And that's the root of quantum physics.
Is there such a thing as a time capsule where they could possibly put you in the future or take you back in time? I don't really get all this. This seems like something from, what do you call it, the outer limits, or I don't know, one of those programs.
Oh, absolutely. When you get into and you start reading the physicists who are experts in quantum physics, they will tell you, and it's back to even Albert Einstein said, there is no such thing as time. Time is only a thought construct and process by which we can perceive the experiences that we are having in this third dimensional world. When people learn to think and create energy in their thoughts that is beyond the third dimension, then they can move into beyond limitations of time. You can go back in time, you can go forward in time. It's all based on the experiences of what your process in your mind, what you're thinking. There's lots of good books that are out there.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how do we actually see that in real time? I mean, see actual proof, or see it happen, or somehow experience, find a way to experience exactly what that's about.
Well, 95% of our day is lived from the subconscious mind. We only spend about 5% of our day in the conscious thinking mind. 95% of it comes from the subconscious mind. And we have so deeply programmed ourselves at the subconscious level that our world is a third dimensional, physical, Newtonian science-based world. And what you have to do, you have to learn how to unprogram the old thought system and then reprogram it with a new one. And that takes a lot of time and work to do that. That's why most people don't experience what we call multidimensional experiences, or experiences beyond the world of time, is because the subconscious mind is programmed to only think in what we call the Newtonian science manner, not quantum physics manner.
How does the RV, or the global currency revaluation might play into what you're talking about?
Well, I share this extensively at the workshops. I would encourage you to come if you haven't been to one. We live in a world where we are programmed, like I said, into the old mindset. It takes a lot of time, energy, and work to help us move into the new, what is called the quantum world of thinking. And the money, the RV money, is designed to be able to set you free. Because, see, we are pretty much slaves financially to the world that we live in. You know, the vast majority of the people are slaves to our jobs. You know, you get up in the morning, you get ready to go to work, you go do your job, you come home, you do what you got to do, and then you're lucky if you got 1 to 3 hours to yourself each and every day, just for you. Other than that, you're just moving in the operations of being a slave to this world. If you were independently wealthy and you didn't have to do a job, you would now have all the time and the resources to do this work, to help you create the shift of where we are going. And that's the real purpose of this money coming forward. It's designed to set us free. It's designed for financial freedom. Now, how people use it is their choice, of course. But ultimately, that is the best thing to do. I don't know what happened to you. Are you still there, Peter? I heard a sound there, a squeak sound, and I don't know what happened. Blanca, can you hear me? Folks, it looks like I have lost my contact with Blog Talk Radio because Blanca's not responding and Peter's not, I'm not hearing them. So somewhere along the way, we have had a disconnect with Blog Talk Radio and the people that are calling in. So I don't know what else to do other than I've shared what I've shared, and folks, I would encourage you to go back again and watch, the video that Tina Louise Spalding brought through. And I think other than that, I'm probably ready to call it an evening because we're not working with Blog Talk Radio. We got cut off there. So, okay. Well, then with that, folks, I'm going to be willing to say let's call this an evening, and we will basically see you next week. In fact, I set the jingle and the music, and it's not even working. So, all right. Well, good night, folks. We'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.